Hey, everybody. We are ready for the next session, which bridging the gap with automation, right? We're all talking about connection in here, and so much of the connection that we do is in one way or another influenced by automation, and that can be a thing. So, have a seat. I'm gonna quickly run through the little housekeeping things that all of you have probably seen already. Hello. Advance. There we go. If anybody would like closed captioning or I'm not hearing other languages, but if anybody wants this presentation or any presentation interpreted into another language, scan this QR code. We show it to you twice, so you definitely have time to scan it if anybody wants it. Okay. Next, I would like to thank our sponsors. And this session is actually being sponsored by Loophole, whom you're about to hear from. So thank you so much. Because of people like you, we get to do this and we all get to learn. So thank you. And can't wait to hear what you have to say. So, hello. Pardon my technology here. Oh, I'm so bad. I am so sorry. I lost my place. There we go. Most businesses don't have a tool problem, they have a systems problem. So Noah and Sean are going to tell us how to break down fragmented processes and disconnected tools, because if we want to connect, we got to make the technology work. Noah Latsch is the CTO and co-founder of Loophole Automation, our sponsor, and who we're about to hear from. Prior to Loophole, Noah spent 5 years at LinkedIn installing, optimizing, and scaling automated systems. Sean Sakaguchi is the COO of Loophole Automation, where he advises clients on workflow design. So, prior to Loophole, Sean spent over a decade in the financial advisory and operational restructuring for companies, governments, and investors with more than 200 billion with a B in executed transaction experience. So I would say this guy knows his money. So thank you so much, and please welcome Sean and Noah.
Appreciate it.
All right.
I can go take both the mic and the clicker.
Okay.
All good? Is this working? Beautiful. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to make you a deal. I've got $5 here, and I'm giving it away. Deal's only good for 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Round of applause. All right, so only one person in this room, and with maybe a fair bit of prompting, did something that no one else even tried to do. They took action. In my experience, there are three kinds of people. Those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, those sitting around saying, wait, what just happened? In reality, businesses that take action to make things happen are the ones who win. And so today we're going to spend a lot of time talking about a variety of things: business processes, technology, even AI. But we want to start with this because in our experience, working with clients in this industry and many others, consistently, the number one thing holding them back has far less to do with their specific technology or their people or their processes or the type of work that they do. Rather, more than 90% of the people that we speak to who we deem as falling behind are doing so because of their inability to take action. To take a problem and break it down into its component element pieces, to make a concrete plan, and to figure out what pieces they're missing or what help they might need in order to make that plan actionable. I'm Sean. As we heard, I'm the CEO of Loophole Automation, and I spent over a decade working in restructuring, helping dozens of companies and governments turn around and improve their operations to save money and improve their growth. I'm joined by Noah, our CTO, who has years of experience specializing in software development and technology.
So the tech world and software companies in general would like you to believe a few things about their products. First, that your business can run on a single, all-in-one platform. Second, that if AI can't solve all of your problems, it can at least solve most of them. And third, that software implementation should just be easy. But I think, as you probably know, the reality is quite different. And that is because your business is not nearly as simple as that sales pitch would like to suggest. Your business has exceptions. It has handoffs. It has a lot of unwritten rules and a lot of tacit judgment and expertise that lives in people's heads. And so all-in-one platforms often fall short, not because your teams are doing anything wrong specifically, but because the software itself is not built to handle that level of complexity. And frankly, these companies are not looking to accommodate you in those ways. And just a quick word on these software companies, because building your business is a little bit like building your dream home from scratch. And these companies are a little bit like a bad landlord, right? What they want to do is show up on the first of the month, collect their rent, and do as little as possible to maintain whatever product they are providing you. I don't know about you, but I've never known a landlord to help anyone build their dream home. So on to AI. AI is absurdly powerful. It has completely transformed the way that I work and the way that we as a business think about work. Those stories that you hear of teams 5xing their productivity, in many cases, are true. We have helped to deliver precisely those kind of results to clients. But let's be brutally clear about AI and its capabilities. AI is exceptional when a task is narrowly defined, but it starts to break down when those tasks become a little bit more complicated, when they start to handle coordination or judgment or require strategy and expertise. There were some Harvard researchers recently who coined this term that I really like when they talked about AI. They called it a jagged frontier, which suggests that this is a technology that is incredibly sharp in some areas, but remarkably dull in others. And so AI literacy is in part the process of learning how to identify where these sharp areas are and where the dull areas are. And while that is all subject to a lot of change in the coming years, I want to be clear that anyone who is telling you to just use more AI or replace everything you do with AI, first and foremost, doesn't respect the work that you do, and second, is not AI literate. And finally, this idea that you can put in your credit card information, download some software, and immediately start getting tremendous value out of it neglects a few key points, a few key questions that we help to answer inside of businesses every day. What about migrating all of my data? What about all of the other platforms that I already use every day? What about retraining all of my employees? Right, so you buy the off-the-shelf thing, you buy the drag and drop, whatever it is, and nothing really changes, at least not structurally, because your business does not just have a tooling problem. It has something much deeper. It has a systems problem. But the good news is that those are precisely the problems that we get excited to solve.
And they're also the kinds of problems that we tackle every day. We work with businesses to help figure out where their operations are getting stuck, why work sort of feels heavier than maybe it should, and what kind of structures can be put in place to help alleviate that. In short, we help businesses improve their digital infrastructure so that your software doesn't get in the way of you getting more out of your best people. Now, when I say digital infrastructure, what exactly do I mean? Fundamentally, all businesses run on three core types of infrastructure. You've got your physical, things like your equipment, your inventory, your social, so your people or the employees that actually make the wheels in your business turn. And then you have your digital infrastructure, your software, your applications, anything that helps information move through the business. That could be emails, your spreadsheets, even handwritten sticky notes count. Now, in our experience, most businesses are actually pretty efficient at knowing how to invest in their physical infrastructure. But where they run into challenges is when it comes to social and digital. And these challenges aren't sort of minute, minuscule things that are just sort of detracting from the business. They have a real cost on both growth and productivity. And it basically serves as an anchor, something that sort of you can't necessarily see from the surface of the water, but it's definitely dragging the business down. Now, identifying businesses or even just parts of businesses that have these types of problems isn't particularly difficult, right? You can go into a business and say, things just feel a little disorganized. Things are kind of chaotic. When we talk to managers who are in that type of position, often what we'll hear them say first is, oh, if only I had a little bit more money, I could hire better people. I could hire more people. And then I could do so much more with my business. And so they will go on, they'll make those hires, they'll get all the budgets arranged, and sometimes that's absolutely what the business needs, works out great. But far more often than should be happening, they'll make all these decisions, they'll commit tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, adding payroll sort of positions that are gonna live with that business for the rest of its lifetime. And still they come back to us and they say, we're just not getting enough out, we're not being as productive as we know we can be. And the reason for that is usually a diagnosis problem. They think they have an issue with their social infrastructure, but it's actually digital. Because the real challenge is that digital infrastructure problems don't show up as digital problems. They show up as people problems. When work is running late, or it's disorganized, or it's taking longer than you think it should, it's often an easy default assumption to assume that the problem is with execution. My people just need to do their job better. They need to work a little bit harder. But oftentimes what you have is you have really good people. They're just stuck inside a system that isn't built to support them. Information is scattered across your business. Processes are inconsistent or unclearly defined. Tons of manual work is getting done that just doesn't need to happen. And so as a result, instead of the system bearing the weight of your business, your people are. And that causes two significant problems. Firstly, you're just getting less out of them. They're less productive than they should be. But second, your hardest working, your best people get frustrated really, really quickly. They feel like they're wasting their time doing work that isn't important. They feel frustrated with themselves because they know they're not delivering the amount of productivity or output that you want from them, and just as importantly, that they know they can deliver. And so that frustration quickly boils into frustration, burnout, and even high turnover. And so a lot of companies that we go to and they say we have a people problem, we have really high turnover, oftentimes what's actually happening is they have a systems problem that they need to fix first. Now, unfortunately, fixing a digital infrastructure problem is often just as hard as diagnosing it. And that's because the best way to improve digital infrastructure looks very different for every different kind of business. And not just every different kind of business, every individual company. When we go and we work with clients, sometimes that engagement looks like us helping them configure one of their existing pieces of software, right? Helping them get more out of the tools they already use. Sometimes it's building integrations. Sometimes it is a custom solution. But in nearly all cases, it starts with the process itself and helping fix that process. The consulting work that we often require our clients to do is so critical because so many businesses don't just need more software. What they really need is a better plan for how work moves through their organization. And that is exactly the type of work that we do.
Before we go any further, I want to pause for a quick cautionary tale. A story about a famous business, a very famous business, who many decades ago became a pioneer in their industry. This company had everything at the time. They had a historic brand, they had technical talent, they had the market positioning, and they were able to develop a technology that actually catapulted the entire industry into the digital age. But despite that, they ultimately failed to capitalize on that moment. And so what happened? This business, the old way of doing things was working reasonably well. Disrupting the old way of doing things would mean disrupting what had made them successful in the first place. The future felt uncertain, which is generally the case with the future. And frankly, it was just too easy for the company to focus on everything else, to think that everything else was more important. But the problem is that while they hesitated, the market adapted. Their competitors adapted. The market changed, customer expectations changed, and this company, which helped to define the future of this industry, ultimately failed to capture it. The company was Kodak. Kodak, who in 1975 invented the world's first digital camera. And in just 40 years, by 2012, were filing for bankruptcy. They filed for bankruptcy because they actually never invested in the technology that they helped to build. And so this is the real message. Companies that act decisively are the ones that win. Companies that stand still, especially in the face of technological change, are the ones that lose. It doesn't happen overnight, but often it'll happen slowly, and then all of a sudden, these companies will become irrelevant and they will lose ground to their competitors. And I want to be quite blunt about this message. You are not too busy to work on this. There is a lot that is less important than this. And if there's anything that we have learned from the companies that we work with and speak with every day, it's that you probably aren't treating this with the level of seriousness and attention that it requires. But because we don't want this to happen to you, we don't want you to be a Kodak, we want to introduce you to our roadmap for success. This is our roadmap for a successful digital transformation. We have developed and deployed this framework inside of events industry businesses and across other industries as well, and it is called Standardize, Connect, Automate. And Sean's going to walk you through the details of it all.
So the first pillar of the framework is to standardize. You have to make your process consistent. If every time a client inquiry comes in, you handle it differently, you just sort of have a chaotic mess on your hand. You need to be able to take a step back and think about every step of the process and every step that you take to accomplish a certain task. Figure out which of those steps are repeatable, and then for the ones that maybe aren't, figure out what you can do to standardize those. And that can look like a whole lot of different things. It could be how you format your client info. It could be how you use a checklist for event setup. But what's important is that the process is clean and consistent. Now, a lot of people, and especially those of you in this industry, really value yourselves on being high touch, right? You want to be able to perfect and control every single little detail, make sure that everything runs absolutely without a hitch. But the unfortunate irony is that the more manual work that you end up trying to do to get that sense of control is often what causes more mistakes to happen. Humans make typos. Humans forget things. And when you're sitting there exhausted at midnight, trying to go through and double check all the details for tomorrow morning's event, in that moment, how much control do you really have? Standardization isn't about trying to kill your personal touch. Instead, it's just about being able to help give you a little bit of a mental autopilot so that you can save some time, reduce your errors, and hopefully ease some of your burnout. Now, the second main pillar is to connect. You need to link your systems together. Most of us, we are the human glue that keeps our businesses together and running. We're copying info from emails, we're sticking them into spreadsheets. We're sending those spreadsheets to the catering team. We're updating a Google document. And all of those things just don't feel like a really good process, right? The goal is instead to let your platforms talk to each other so that you can get more out of those systems that you're already using. Imagine a system that looks like this instead. An inquiry comes in, automatically that contact is dropped into your CRM. Your Google Calendar is updated. Maybe you even ping your Slack channel, letting someone know that a new inquiry has come in, right? There is no copy pasting anywhere in those sentences. And that is what a good connected system is supposed to look like. Now, the final pillar is to automate. And this is the thing that everyone thinks of about automation. They really want to jump right to this step. But the secret is that you can't automate anything well unless you have a clean process and connected tools, right? Otherwise, you have a computer that doesn't really know what to do. And only when you've done those things can the computer start to handle the repetitive, boring, but still really, really critical work of your business. The golden rule is you can't automate until you have done Standardize and Connect. We like to say that automating a broken process just breaks things faster. Now let's talk for a minute about how AI fits into this framework. Like Noah said, absolutely we believe that AI has significant potential to improve businesses and will probably be the future of business work in the not so distant future. But we want to be very, very clear about one other thing, and it's critical that people don't miss this. AI is not a solution or the answer to a broken system, not the solution to a broken system. I think my guess is many of you in this room have probably tried an AI tool or two by now, maybe a chatbot, maybe a note taker. And you've probably used it and thought to yourself, it can do maybe a couple interesting things, but maybe it wasn't quite reliable enough, or maybe it just didn't help out my business that much. And the answer is you're probably right. It probably wasn't that useful. And the reason is that because a lot of AI tools are being asked to do work without the context that's necessary in order to actually do a good job. And I think that that idea is actually quite intuitive to most of us. I like to think about AI the way that you would think about a new employee. Maybe someone who's really smart, but at the beginning has no idea what they're doing. Right? Imagine you hire someone from off the street and you sit them in an event planning meeting and you say, I want you to take notes. Now, you haven't told them anything about what the meeting is about. You haven't told them about any of the planning that's been done for months leading up to this meeting. You haven't even told them what your business does. But you still say, hey, take notes. What do you expect the quality of those notes to look like? Probably not very good, right? Imagine you take that same employee. You say, hey, I want you to go respond to this email. Still haven't told them anything about the event, haven't told them anything about what your business does. Maybe you don't even give them the whole email thread. You just give them the last response. Say, hey, go respond to that email. What would you expect that person's email or that person's response to look like? Of course it's going to be terrible. I bet you'd be embarrassed to send that email to your client, as you should be. And the problem is that AI is often in the same position. It's being asked to take a stab or make a guess when it doesn't have the information necessary to actually get done what you want.
Okay, so we've done a lot of talking, and I appreciate you bearing with us, but we do want to transition into a more practical example and hopefully make this a little bit more tangible. So I want to introduce you to our client, the Sweet Dreams Hotel, and their lovely sales manager, Lucy Goosey. This is a popular hotel, events, and catering business here in downtown Seattle, and like a lot of businesses in this industry, they have a really strong team who have been with the company for years. They have really ambitious goals for the next 5 years, and unfortunately, they have a really serious busy season problem. The challenge for Sweet Dreams is not a lack of demand. It's actually quite the opposite. Every single day, this business receives dozens of inquiries and leads, and the sales team is underwater, really struggling to manage this volume of inquiries. This is what their process currently looks like. An inquiry comes in, typically via email, and it is then Lucy's job to qualify each lead before handing it off to the more specialized salespeople and the more specialized event producers. Qualification is easier said than done, right? That typically takes 1 email, or 2, or 3, or 4, which typically leaves Lucy going from this to this to this. And what's more, while Lucy is chasing every single lead, regardless of how qualified they might be, more leads are landing in the inbox every single day. And often those leads are going unresponded to for days, which in this industry is a real problem. If you cannot respond quickly to leads, your conversion rates will plummet, and good, perfectly qualified leads will walk out the door, go down the street to your competitor, without ever having spoken to anyone on your sales team. So just to wrap this up, in the event that a lead is qualified, Lucy then confirms their availability, puts a temporary hold on that calendar for that event, and then effectively hands it off to the sales team via these various channels and platforms that they use. So this is a very expensive problem for Lucy and her team, and they reached out to us looking for a solution. And we actually spotted the opportunity right away. The solution was not to bring on more salespeople. It was not to rip out the system and start from scratch. They have a very strong team, and they have platforms that they are familiar with and rely on every single day. The solution is actually in automating this initial bottleneck in the process by replacing it with an AI-powered lead qualification workflow. And in doing so, we can also integrate that tool with the larger system and connect and automate the flow of data across the entire thing. So in a couple minutes, I'm going to transition into a demo of what this system actually looks like. But just to preface it, what we'll hopefully see is a lead come in real time. We will watch how that lead is qualified, handed off to the sales team, and without anyone lifting a single finger. So let's jump in and look at that video. I was really hoping that this could be a live demo, by the way, but 2 days ago we found out there's no Wi-Fi. So you'll have to suffice with a recorded video. Do I press the button to play it, or? Yeah?
In order for this demo to make the most sense, we want to start at the basic building block of the entire system, the agents. When I say that this workflow is AI-powered, I am not suggesting that some single AI prompt is pulling all the strings and doing all the work for us. No, instead what we have done is created a series of 4 distinct AI agents, each assigned a very narrow task. You can see those 4 agents listed here with these cute little dog icons to represent them. So this is how the process works. An intake agent is tasked with reading the initial lead inquiry and summarizing it for the qualification agent. The qualification agent is then tasked with determining whether that inquiry meets all of the necessary criteria for us to be able to disqualify or qualify this lead. If any crucial details are missing, the qualification agent writes an email back to the lead to get the details that we need. If qualification is approved, then we then hand that to the booking agent. And the booking agent is interesting because it is connected in real time to the company's internal systems, its internal spreadsheets, its calendar, and its booking management system. And the booking agent, unlike the qualification agent, therefore has the ability and the context to identify any scheduling conflicts that might exist. Once the first 3 agents have completed their tasks, all of that work gets passed to the reply agent, whose job is to summarize everything and send a concise professional email back to the lead. Now, I want to be very clear about how these were developed, because a lot of care and attention went into them. The only reason these agents work is because we took the time to sit with Lucy and her team and effectively encode all of their preferences into these agents. We had to learn precisely how they worked so that we could standardize the process. These preferences and processes had previously never been documented, and what we've done is now standardize their process in the form of these 4 agents. And to be clear, the agents are never being asked to do unknown work. They are only ever performing known work across known systems on a known cadence and producing something that a human already knows how to evaluate. So keep in mind, remember these 4 icons as you will see them again and again throughout the demo. So now that you've seen the basic building blocks, you understand the AI agents, but let's go over to the inbox because this is where work really gets done. And if you are going to have agents in your business performing work and tasks on your behalf, it immediately becomes essential that you have a place where you can monitor and observe their behaviors. So that's why we've created this inbox. This is where every new inquiry flows. And to be clear, this is connected to Lucy's existing email inbox. It does not replace it. But this is necessary for us to monitor the status of individual leads and monitor the behavior of individual agents. So if I jump into a particular lead who is still being qualified, you can see what this looks like. At the front, we get a summary of the lead and all of the crucial information that still needs to be determined. This is what the qualification agent has identified as missing. You can then go even deeper into the individual message exchanges between the lead and our agents. And then you can go even one layer deeper into the individual actions that each agent took. And so in doing this, you were able to review their thought process and the actions that were taken and the handoffs between the different agents. So moving away from the abstract, I want to take you back to the inbox, and in just a few moments, we will show this system in action. I'm going to have Sean reach out to us at Sweet Dreams Hotel, pretending to be a lead, and we will be able to watch as the AI agent triage his inquiry and manage this work. The hope is that what we will get is a fully qualified lead handed off to the downstream teams without anyone having to lift a finger. So here we can see Sean's initial inquiry has landed in our inbox, and we can click into it and begin the process of monitoring the agent. You can see the agent is reasoning through Sean's initial inquiry. The handoff is being made between the intake agent and the qualification agent. and it has now already sent an email back to him. But before we review all of that, let's just start with Sean's initial inquiry and get a sense for what he's asking for. He says, "Hi there, I'm hoping to host a wedding at your hotel and wanted to see what might be possible. We're still figuring things out, but I'd love to learn more about options and availability." Now, many of you in this industry will recognize an inquiry like this. Perfectly polite, perfectly kind, but absent any details that we actually need, absent any information that is meaningfully helpful for us. So the agent, I would expect, would reach out to him and say thank you and ask him to clarify all of the necessary details that we need to know to be able to qualify him. And taking a look at its response, it looks like that's exactly what it's done. It's asked him to clarify the preferred event date, the start time, the end time, the estimated guest count, and the budget range. So let's see if Sean replies, can give us those details, and we'll see what happens next in the exchange. Okay, Sean's response is in. And in this case, let's monitor the individual reasoning thread a little bit more closely. So this time, we're still starting with the inquiry agent. We're handing off to the qualification agent, and we can see that the qualification agent has determined the qualification is complete. So Sean has provided us all the details that we need. So we've now handed it off to the booking agent to identify any other conflicts that might arise. And it does look like, from what I'm seeing, that some conflict was identified. Let's dig into what exactly that was. So the agent has determined, from what I can see, that the ballroom would not be the best fit for Sean. The ballroom is what he asked for in his previous response, because the ballroom has a minimum spend of $50,000 and his budget is only $35,000. So as a good employee probably would, instead of disregarding him, it has now made an informed recommendation for a better alternative that matches his budget and his timing. It looks like the agent has recommended the presidential suite instead of the ballroom and is now asking him to clarify if that sounds reasonable. So let's see if Sean replies and he confirms that this is okay. My guess is the qualification would be complete, but let's see what he says. Sean says that makes sense. If the ballroom is outside our range, let's go with the presidential suite instead. So as far as I know, and we will see how the agents handle this should be the completed process. The status has changed from qualifying to qualified here at the top, and we should now be able to see all of the handoffs into the various systems. These icons are indicating that we are updating Slack, Google Sheets, HubSpot, the Google Calendar, and Gmail, because this process is fully completed. And to show you that this is not magic, let's jump into those systems really quick and see what work the agent has done on our behalf. If I check in Slack, I can see that we have a new response in our sales team Slack channel. If I jump to our other systems, I can see in my inbox this exchange between me and Sean. Right? So this should give you a sense that Lucy's inbox is untouched. It is still hers to do normal work in, but we can track this thread in her email inbox as well. If I go to our Google Calendar, I can see that we now have a hold on December 15th from 6 to 9 p.m., which is precisely what Sean asked for, so that the whole team now knows that this is a held event on the calendar. I can also jump to our internal spreadsheet, and we can see that we have this new entry for Sean recorded. And if I go into HubSpot and I refresh my page, we now have a new deal set up for the sales team so they can jump in with all of the necessary details. Pretty cool, right? What we have seen now is an end-to-end qualification process. No one has had to lift a finger, and the sales team can now handle this inquiry with the care and attention that it deserves.
It would have been better live, but I appreciate the applause. So to be clear here, what we've seen is not an all-in-one platform that is replacing a business, right? This is a custom system that is built around a business and around its particular people and processes. And for this company, like others who could use a system like this, what they will get is drastically reduced response times, massively increased conversion rates, and effectively bring more dollars in the door while doing far less manual work. And now the sales team knows that every single conversation that they are having is with a real qualified lead, and they can get back to the work that actually matters and that they are most suited to do. So to be clear, this is the kind of thing that you can get when you invest in digital infrastructure. And I implore you to consider this as an option the next time you go to buy some new software or replace something that doesn't quite feel right in the moment. Just remember that you no longer need to buy software off the shelf and mold your business to fit it. Instead, you can actually build custom systems that reflect the precise complexity and preferences of your business.
Now, this example is just one of many common problems that event industry companies can sort of help alleviate using the Standardize, Connect, Automate framework. As we've worked with clients, we've helped them solve a number of problems, from proposal generation to staffing to inventory to event timelines. And the thing that's important to remember as you use this framework is that though the problems that are being solved might look really similar from business to business or even from industry to industry, the solutions are going to be very, very different for every single different company. Even if it's sales, even if it's something generic like inventory or staffings, different for every single company. And the reason that that's important is because if you guys are sort of thinking about doing this type of transformation work in your business, it's important to sort of listen to what the providers are telling you. If you're working with a software provider or maybe a partner and they say, hey, I can show you exactly what this is going to look like in your business, right? We've got this tool, it's already built, we just need to plug it in. Or I can come configure your HubSpot. I've got a template for a bunch of businesses. They're exactly like your business. We just need to set it up for you. Right? At first, that might feel comforting, right? That might be a signal of expertise. But often what that's actually masking is that they're taking the complexity of your business and they're trying to flatten it down to the size of their tool. And so that is actually a red flag that should make you run for the hills. One of the other challenges that comes with doing this type of work is that very few organizations have the ability, the knowledge, and importantly, the capacity to do this in-house. Sometimes when we're having conversations with people, people will say, hey, that sounds like a great idea. I'm going to go talk to my IT team about it. I'm going to get IT on this right now. And for the people who's saying that, most of them have never actually worked in IT, because I think they'd realize that most IT teams aren't actually built or structured to handle that kind of work. The kind of work that you actually need is going to look something a lot more like your operations manager, except maybe if your operations manager could write code. It requires a unique blend of operational expertise and technical capabilities, not just in maintaining or patching or fixing systems, but in building, developing, and deploying new pieces of software. Now, once you get past the capacity or the expertise problem, right, you're still only halfway there, unfortunately. Remember at the beginning of this presentation, we said that 90% of the businesses that seem to be falling behind that we've spoken to are doing so not for technical reasons, but for an emotional one: their inability to take action. The reason for that is sort of quite simple, right? The fact that all of you guys are here means that you clearly care about this kind of topic. You care about being able to move your business forward. And businesses are often in the same position. Rarely is it the case that a business is irrational or they don't understand what kinds of things could make their business better. But nonetheless, action seems to be really slow, right? And the reasons for that seem very reasonable. Things are too busy. The season is just really crazy right now. Leadership isn't aligned. We got to go talk to a lot of people. We got to get a lot of decision makers lined up. Now that we've done that, there's a bunch of different tools out there. We have to spend a lot of time vetting every single different one. All of these are completely understandable reasons, right? Totally reasonable. But nonetheless, it doesn't deny the fact that action is being slowed and almost to the point of being stopped. And the reason for that is that without a defined, concrete plan, the default state is always going to be delay. And that's because there's no there, right? There's no ball that you can move forward. There's no metric that you can check your progress against. There's no way to hold your business accountable. Now, holding your business accountable is actually another way that you should actually try to squeeze more juice out of any kind of outside help, right? What you really want is you want them to be able to help you solve those internal problems. Let's say you're interested in investing in an AI-powered sales agent, for example. What you need is not just someone who understands AI, but also someone who understands sales. And just as importantly, someone who understands what happens when sales has to hand a lead to your operations. Don't invest in teams that just know the technology. You need to invest in teams that can help take a leadership role inside your operations. I had a conversation a number of years ago with the CEO of a former client of mine, Planet Fitness. And that conversation really changed the way that I think about a lot of these kinds of investment decisions. Some of you may be surprised to hear that Planet Fitness has more than 3 times as many members per gym as their next closest competitor. In fact, if all Planet Fitness members decided they wanted to go to the gym in the same 24-hour period, less than 0.5% would be able to get in. On paper, these gyms are packed. But is that reality? Right? Walk by a Planet Fitness at 6 p.m. and what do you see? Right? I usually see a building that's half empty. Raise your hand if you've ever seen a packed Planet Fitness. Right? No one has. And that's not a mistake. That is a very deliberate and intentional business model. They charge just low enough amount of money that you don't mind paying the monthly subscription, the monthly cost over and over and over again. But you also are not being charged enough that you feel bad about not going to the gym. Compare that to a high-end gym or a personal trainer, right? It's more expensive, there's a lot more kind of pain, but it tends to result in people working out more. It delivers the results. Now, the unfortunate parallel is that most companies buy their software like Planet Fitness memberships. They optimize for cheap, they optimize for easy, they optimize for low commitment. And as a result, they tend to get pieces of technology that are either underutilized or that just plain underdeliver. In contrast, digital transformation looks a lot more like the personal trainer, right? It's more upfront cost, it's more friction, and it's someone forcing you to stick with it longer than feels maybe perfectly comfortable. But you do that because it gets results. The truth is that tools don't change businesses. Behavior does.
So I think none of you are here today because you don't understand your business. I think you are here because you do. My bet is that you know precisely how much communication, how much coordination, and how much effort goes in to making your business run well. And my hope is that this presentation has helped shed light on the fact that, like it or not, for better or worse, technology is not just an important part of making your business run well, but an important part of making it run better. Because all of you are also ambitious. You want your business to improve, you want your business to grow, you want it to work better next year than it does today. And I hope you see that digital infrastructure is an essential part of how information flows throughout your business, essential part of how teams coordinate work, and how decisions get made at speed. This is not just a technical concern. This is a business concern, growth concern, a quality of life concern for you and your employees. And my hope is that you see it as a real area for growth and opportunity, because I think that the future that you want for your business depends on it. So I appreciate you coming. Thank you so much. It looks like we have maybe 5 minutes.
Well,
we can cut it early as well. And
we're happy to answer questions for however long people have questions. If you want to take the mic for MC. Yes.
You want the clicker too?
I don't think the clicker's on.
Good, I love having it.
Thank you for holding your hand up that long. Sorry, I should have been at the front of the room, but I wasn't. Here you go.
Hi. Great presentation. This is awesome. I have a question because I know you spoke about the fact that you guys are a consulting company. So is software part of what you guys do, or do you guys, like we have Claude, do you help companies leverage existing AI tools as well? Okay, awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, usually what sort of engagements when we work with clients is we go in and they sort of identify certain problems that they want fixed. And we sort of come in and sort of work as kind of like almost temporary employees, right? We get to know the business and those operations. And then we say, okay, what solutions are best here? If you have existing tools, oftentimes, assuming some tools are bad. But if the tools are pretty good, right, then it's like a question of configuring and maybe doing training on how do you use those tools or set them up best, right? Sometimes you have tools that are bad. I know that we've worked with a lot of caterers, and not to name names, but they use Caterees, which is a decidedly bad platform. And so in cases like that, it might be finding what new tools either are available that could be used or that can be built to just sort of do the narrow things that the business needs.
Yeah. And to be clear, like what separates us, I think, from like normal consultants, which often get a bad rep, is that we also have in-house software development. So I'm a software developer, so in many cases it might become the case that we want to build something totally custom, like you saw in the demo, but we always have a strong preference for whatever tools you already use and already like. If you don't like something, let's get it out, let's throw it away, and let's build something instead. But yeah, we can work with whatever you have.
Hi, what's the timeline for the loosey-goosey scenario that you guys created? How long would it take you to implement something like that in real life?
Yeah, so if we were starting from scratch, we would come in, sit with the sales team, sit with probably the operations team, understand where those handoffs are, and generally that would take probably 3 to 5 consulting sessions. We could do that in person or we could do it remote. We would come in, those are probably an hour each. And in that, we would basically extract all of the information and preferences that are in people's heads and often go sort of unstated and are sort of unaware. And then we translate that into a set of standardized processes. And then the actual software development, that can vary quite a lot depending on whatever we learn in that first stage. But most of our engagements are generally between 2 months. I would say 2 to 4 months to deploy those types of things. But it also depends what we've built before, if we have something that looks like that already. But that's generally what you're looking at.
Okay.
Is this software meant, or what you guys do, is it meant for more like sales-focused things, or do you guys work, like I represent health centers.
Yep.
Is there stuff that, like, have you been in the medical industry at all, or what are other types of use cases?
Yeah, great question. So the use case, generally speaking, is quite broad, right? Sales, inventory, staffing, finance sometimes. Medical is interesting because we specifically don't touch anything that is HIPAA protected information. But other than that, so long as it doesn't have to sort of require that kind of information, the type of problem, again, putting aside certain like visual, video, kind of like 3D rendering stuff we don't really touch, but most kind of business process things, admin things that an operations manager would work with, we work with kind of across industries.
Great. Okay. And thank you so much. I think that was the last question we had time for. But this was really, really fascinating. I hope you guys will be hanging around to talk.
We have a booth for tomorrow.
And at the trade show, which, by the way, if you have never been to this show, come to the trade show and come hungry, because it's really fun. So it's definitely worth seeing the trade show, and check out Loophole. And thank you so much.